Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, YouTubers, and everybody else on the cosmos. I am Army Specialist Scott, and I am here to instruct you in all the boring stuff you need to know regarding the Xbox 360. This is video 2 in the Xbox 360 Maintenance and Repair video series that I am doing on a volunteer basis for the USO. This is not for any one specific USO, this is for the entire worldwide organization and all the different USOs out there so that you can maintain your game systems and budget your money in a much better way. To begin, this particular video is going to be all the boring stuff you need to know about the Xbox 360 so that when you encounter a problem, when you encounter a system, you'll know what you're looking at and you'll know what to do about it. So, without further ado. And this is also for anybody else who stumbles across it on YouTube and decides to watch it. To clarify something that I failed to clarify before we actually get started, something I failed to clarify in the previous video, in video 1, the introduction, these videos are not requested by the USO in any way, shape, form, or fashion. They are not paid for by the USO, they are not endorsed by the USO, they are not, and when I say endorsed, I mean like they didn't say, we need this. That's what I mean by that. Anyway, they're also not paid for by the Army, they're not affiliated with the Army, even though I am an active duty Army soldier. I'm doing this purely on a volunteer basis because it's Wednesday night and I've got nothing better to do. Why not? So, welcome to my hobby. Alright. Video number 2, boring stuff you need to know. This video series is made to instruct the common everyday person off of the street on how to repair an Xbox 360. The generations of the Xbox 360 series of game systems from Microsoft are what we're going to be focusing on. Now then, the Xbox 360, the original Xbox, and the Xbox One. What we're going to be doing in this video series, I'm going to be referring to the Xbox 360 simply as the 360. My reason for doing this is because it irks me greatly when somebody says, oh, well, I have an Xbox. Okay, so you've got one of those Xboxes from the early 2000s, from, 2001, 2002, that era? No, it's an Xbox. What? Come on, be more specific. There's 3 generations now. You've got the Xbox original, which was the black thing that had a big, X across the top and a green circle right there that said Xbox. Okay? That was the original Xbox. And then you've got the Xbox 360s, Generation 1, Special Edition, something or other, and Generation 2. And Generation 3 also, which recently came out, is called the Xbox 360E. If you want to see a picture of it, get to your computer, which I hope you're actually in front of your computer right now. But go ahead and get to your computer, fire up Google, and do a search for the Xbox 360 Type E. And it'll bring up something that looks like a shrunk down, slightly streamlined version of the Xbox One. I guess Microsoft just wanted to make it slightly prettier than this right here, because the only major difference there is it's lacking. They took out 2 USB ports, they changed the power plug, they changed the power button and the DVD eject button because it's no longer this touch ding thing. And that's really it. Otherwise, it's the exact same hardware that's in this guy right here. Exact same hardware. I will not be performing any kind of maintenance or any kind of teardowns on those because they are so new at the time of filming. Any system that is an Xbox 360E that I open up will be warranty voided, and my only source of one is the USO, and I am currently unwilling to void the warranty on their stuff. The only reason why I performed any kind of surgery on their old school Xbox 360s, the Generation 1s, is because they are already out of warranty. If you own an Xbox 360 and it looks like this, or this, or this, it's out of warranty, you have nothing to worry about. Now then, more boring stuff that you need to know. The Xbox 360 originally had, the Xbox 360 has 3 different generations. Generation 1 has, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, has 5 different revisions to its hardware. Generation 2, which is this type of Xbox right here, has 2 revisions, and then Generation 3 currently only has 1, and I expect Microsoft is only going to do 1. So, without further ado, what's the major differences between the different Generation 1 Xbox 360s? How do I know what I'm looking at? Well, that's very simple. If you hit Google and then do a search for Xbox 360 power plug differences, you'll find an image exactly like this right here. This is a lovely, perfect little cheat sheet guide for finding out what kind of Xbox you have. Now, this guy right here, I have this one circled because this one right here has this bar across the top, this little doohickey here in the middle, and it's common 6 plugs, and it has an HDMI plug, which makes it a Zephyr Xbox 360 Generation 1 system. I'm having to lean across the table and put this in the camera's face because I have a bad camera. Please bear with me and don't, laugh at me too much. Please don't treat me harshly in the comments section below. Anyway, so you'll find this. Go ahead and Google that now. I'll go ahead and wait. Okay, if you didn't pause the video and go search it and then turn the video back on again, you're out of luck. But go ahead and pause it now, and then, we'll continue. Alright, so, right here. The Xenon was the original Xbox 360. It had this lovely, interesting power plug on it that has this weird thing on it. It's got a bar, and then it's got a little kind of puck, kind of like a hockey puck, a solid part, right there in the middle between the 6 connectors. And it has no HDMI port, none whatsoever. The Zephyr, which was the second revision, the first revision of the hardware, because the Xenon was the original hardware. The Zephyr was the first revision of the hardware that they made, and it still had a 203 watt power supply unit, or power brick. We're going to be calling it the power brick for ease of term purposes. The Zephyr had a 203 watt power supply and HDMI. That was the only major thing. Now, the problem with this is that it kept getting hot. It kept getting hot, it kept overheating, it kept popping the main processor off of the board, it kept popping the graphics processor off of the board, it kept exploding capacitors and all kinds of terribleness, and it kept getting hot. This was all because of heat. So, they had to find a way of cooling it down. Well, they did. And that was to reduce the amount of power that it actually consumed. So, the second revision of the hardware was the Opus. The Opus, like the original, the Xenon, did not have an HDMI plug. But it was sporting a nice, new, fancy 175 watt power supply. Now you've got next generation gaming at half the power cost. Well, still wasn't good enough. Still kept red ringing, still kept overheating. So they did another revision, came out with the Falcon, they didn't cure the heat problem with the Falcon. Instead, let me go ahead and fix what I just said there, because I just made a mistake. And I'm not intending to edit this video at all. So they started with the Opus as their second revision. People wanted high definition because HDMI was first coming to the fore, and what they did is they went ahead and they released the Falcon. The Falcon was basically the Opus, only this time it had HDMI plugs on it. Now, the problem was here is that it was still hot. It was still overheating. It was still consuming too much power. So their solution was to revise the hardware again and then release the Jasper, which is what this type of system is right here. The Jasper was a 150 watt power supply unit that also, by default, had HDMI. Now, the great thing there is the Jasper actually was great as far as longevity was concerned. They had finally solved a lot of the red ringing issues, they had solved a lot of the heat consumption issues and the heat dissipation issues, power consumption issues, heat dissipation issues, and they basically reached the final form of their hardware revision because they had succeeded in what they were going to be doing with that hardware. Well, wasn't good enough. People still wanted something better because it kept overheating, still. So what did they do? They revised the whole thing. They came out with this guy right here. The Generation 2 Xbox 360. The Generation 2 Xbox 360, its hardware originally was the Trinity, also known as the Valhalla hardware. It had only a 135 watt power supply unit, and it was released on June 2010, and it was really great. The major revision that they had was, number one, smaller. Number two, hard drive now sits on the inside underneath the cover in the bottom. Let's go ahead and pull out this enclosure here. And there it is. There's the hard drive. It's no longer sitting up on the top. Okay? With the old system, the hard drive was up on the top. Okay? And it's easily removed. The other major thing that they did is they solved a lot of the cooling issues as long as it's laying on its side. If you have it standing up, the heat still builds up in the system. What you need to do to keep it cool is lay it on its side, because it has this lovely massive grate here, and then immediately underneath that grate you have a cooling fan, and then immediately underneath the cooling fan, like any sane computer is built, you have the heat sink and then the processor underneath that. The graphics processor and the main processor for the computer. Because what is the Xbox 360? What is any game system? It's actually a computer that is specifically made to play video games. That's what it is. Because your major computer hardware component parts are processor, motherboard, RAM, video card, video/graphics card, sound card, power supply unit, DVD drive, hard drive, and then you've got your case. Well, what does the Xbox 360 have? It has a motherboard. It has RAM, which is your memory, built straight into the motherboard. It has your processor, which is a triple-core processor in the case of the Xbox 360 and all its generations, a triple-core processor. It also has a graphics processor, and which was done by NVIDIA, I believe, and it also has a hard drive and a DVD drive. And it's also got a power supply unit, which is external to the system for heat reasons. But it has all the components of a common desktop computer right here in one box. The only difference is it doesn't run Windows. It won't run any major applications. It specifically plays video games, and that's it. So, Microsoft released their second revision of their hardware. Alright, cool. They solved a lot of the issues. Alright, cool. They didn't solve all of the issues. When it first came out, the fan was loud and people were screaming about it being loud, and they were saying, it's loud, I don't like that it's loud. So Microsoft said, okay, no problem, we'll make it quieter. So what did they do? They slowed the fan down. Yep, they slowed the fan down. Well, what does that matter? Why does slowing the fan down even matter? What's the point there, Mr. Man? Well, I'll tell you. Slowing the fan down means that heat keeps building up inside of the system faster than the fan can pull it out. The reason why this is bad is because as heat builds up inside of the system, the processor, the main processor and the graphics processor do not have pins that go through the motherboard like a normal PC processor. So if it gets really, 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 really hot, those solder points that are on that processor that keep it glued to the board with, previously liquefied metal that is lead-based will, instead of getting hot and then staying there and just floating in their spots while staying connected, because it's just sitting there, the motherboard gets hot, the processor gets hot, the two warp, and oh, they're separated now. System can't do anything anymore because its processor is popped off of the motherboard. Oh, well that's fine, just turn it off and let it cool back down. Okay, we cool it back down. Oh no. Oh dear. It might be touching again, but those solder points are still broken. And as long as those solder points are broken, that processor is not going to be talking to that motherboard anytime soon. And so there we have a problem. That is where the major red ring of death and just absolute suicide things with the Xbox 360 come from. Because the major normal scenario is you've got average Joe or Jane, every man or every woman, sitting at home. They're playing their Xbox, they're having fun, they play all day on something like Skyrim, or Oblivion, or Call of Duty, or let's say better yet, USO guys. You come to work, everything's fine, you have a guy walk in, it's a soldier, he's back from downrange, he's on R&R, he's heading home, his flight doesn't take off until tomorrow this same time. Well, he came to you, and you're open, so what's he want to do? Does he want to use the Wi-Fi? Does he want to use the internet? Does he want to take a nap? Nope, he wants to play some video games on the 360. So he borrows out a game, throws it in the 360, sits down, starts playing. Everything's fine, everything's perfectly okay. Out of the blue, you start hearing him cussing his head off. You're thinking, oh, well, he's losing at the game. Wrong. The video game system has just lost at life. The soldier comes up to you and he says, this Xbox is messed up. It froze on me and it won't work anymore. It's showing 3 red lights around the power switch. Or the power button here simply turned red and it's not doing anything anymore. What's up with this stuff? Come on guys, fix it. So he's expecting you to do something about it. Sad thing is you can't do anything about it. It's just red ringed. It just got super hot, the processor or the graphics processor popped off board. Now it didn't pop off and go flying, it just raised because the motherboard warped and it just disconnected, okay? So the processor, and that's what I mean when I say popped off. So the processor popped off the board and now the system is dead, effectively. It's not going to work anymore, at all. So you're kind of out of luck. Well, you could have prevented that. You could have prevented that by taking some canned air, unplugged the power cable and the video cable from the back of it, and also the network cable if you have one plugged in. Take some canned air, spray it into the vents until you get a bunch of dust out, spray it out to all the vents until you stop getting dust out, and then plug it all back in. And as long as you do this once a week, it would have been fine for years before finally dying completely. Well, it still would have died. So there's some stuff that you end up needing to do. And that's where I come in. The rest of the boring stuff that you need to know comes in here. Now the different types of issues that the Xbox 360 has is the infamous red ring of death. You've also got the red C of overheating, and you've also got the red single light of yeah, I love that this thing just did that and just messed up my whole video. That's great. I'm leaving it in. I'm not even going to take that out. But anyway, so you've got the red dot of death, which is what the Generation 2 360 is, that's what its version of the red ring of death is. And then you've got the red single light of death on these systems, and then it says error 36 on the television. That's when all you have to do is turn it off, unplug the hard drive, unplug the controllers, memory cards, everything that's not necessary for it to turn on and talk to the television, and then turn it back on again. After it's done turning back on and booting up and sitting there and saying, okay, what do you want to do? Turn it back off again, put the hard drive back on, plug your memory cards back in, plug your controller back in, turn it back on again, everything's fine. Why does that happen? Static discharge. That's why. It's very simple. All you gotta do is just unplug, replug. Done. But make sure the system is off when you do it, because if you do it while the system's on, you run the risk of frying the hard drive. Remember that. Now then, you've also got other issues of the disk is not reading in the DVD drive, which is what this guy has. You put a disk in, it spins, it spins, it spins, you can hear it spinning, but the 360 is not saying anything. It's not even recognizing that the disk is in there. It's just sitting there going, still spinning the disk, looking for stuff. 30 minutes later, still the same thing. What do? Pop the disk out and get frustrated. Well, not anymore. I'm going to teach you how to fix that too. You've also got that funny burning smell, and, well, what is that funny burning smell and what does it mean? Well, that funny burning smell might be the power supply unit has a bunch of dust jammed in it because of years of running in a closed environment where it's constantly sucking air into itself and then blowing it out the back. But the thing is that it keeps pulling that air in, and that air has dust in it. You never dusted out the power brick. Now the power brick is burning that dust. And now that dust is also getting between two contact points on the circuit board. And as that happens, the dust is electrically conductive. So what does this mean? It's about as bad as pouring water on it, because it's going to spark and burn and die. That's why it's a bad idea to never dust it out. That's what that burning smell is too. Now sometimes you'll also get that inside the 360, and it's the same thing. It's burning dust, it's burning silicon, it's not good. So you need to keep your system clean. Then you've also got the issue of the drive is not opening, the drive is not closing, or the drive will open but it won't close. Okay, well, sometimes that's easy. Sometimes all you gotta do is lay it on its side, press the button, and then give it a good whack, and then it'll pop open. Well, we don't want you hitting your 360s because that only exacerbates the problem and makes things worse. So, the other issues that you also have are something went bang and now I can smell something burning. That's your power supply that it just exploded. Same issue as before. It's a pretty major issue. It's very common. People always assume that the entire system is dead when it happens because, well, it's not turning on. Well, did you try a different power brick? Why would I do that? You serious? Jeez. Anyway. The other issue is, why will it not connect to Xbox Live? Okay. We're going to take care of that one also. Another issue after it does connect to Xbox Live, it says it has an update, but it won't update. What do? We're going to talk about that too. Now then, the final issue that I like to go over, is getting banned from Xbox Live. A lot of what I'm going to show you has the potential of getting you banned from Xbox Live. Don't go away, listen. Okay? If you don't follow my instructions to the letter, then yes, it can happen. Now then, opening up the system, cleaning it out, dusting it out, getting it, clean and spick and span, putting it back together again. Will that ban you from Xbox Live? No. Putting a new hard drive in, will that ban you? No. Taking a hard drive out of this guy, putting it into this guy, will that ban you? No. Replacing a DVD drive that's broken without following my instructions to the letter, will that get you banned? Oh yes, definitely. Which is why when I go over that video, it's going to be comprehensive and it will also show you how to not get banned. Okay, so final thoughts though. One of the things that I didn't go over is how you can know when your Xbox 360 is really and truly dead, and to just go ahead and replace it. Well, if you try the unred ringing solution that I show you later on, and it fails, then I'd say try it again. Try it 3 or 4 or 5 times. If it still fails, come back to the video, watch the video again, make sure you did it exactly to the letters how I told you to do it. If you did and it's still dead, well, it's probably time to just go ahead and pull the hard drive and go out and get a new 360, okay? And I will also go ahead and show you how to take the hard drive from the old 360 and put it into the new 360. Now, as long as while you're cleaning it, if you run into any charred spots on the motherboard, in other words, any places on the motherboard that are obviously burned, that's a good indication that something bad has happened there, and that this 360 is only working by some form of miracle, and that it should have actually died. If you see a corroded spot on the motherboard, in other words, if you see a bright patch of something that looks to be kind of aquamarine and white towards the edges, and it's a large, patch and it looks kind of fungusy, that's corrosion. That means that something has gone horribly wrong, somebody got something into the system somehow, and the system's basically dead. Now, another way that you can know that the Xbox 360 is really and truly dead and never going to work again is if, while you're working on it, you get really, really overzealous with your Q-tips when you're cleaning it, and you break something off of the motherboard. There is no expendable portion of the 360 that is made of circuits. Plastic is one thing. Plastic is replaceable. Circuitry is not. It's really not. So, bad news there. If you break something off, you're going to have to get a new system. So be gentle. You're not trying to scrub it. You're not trying to scrub the green off, because that green is supposed to be there. You're just trying to get the dust off. That's it. The other thing is, if you are performing the modification to the fan, and for whatever odd, strange reason you end up breaking a hole in the motherboard, or if you decide, well, I'm just going to go ahead and take the motherboard out entirely and clean underneath it, I do not tell you to do that in the videos, because you can destroy your screwdriver doing it, because some of those bolts are really in there, really, really tight, and the normal kind of screwdriver that you're going to be able to use will strip, and it'll just be round afterwards, and it'll be worthless. Also, if you end up getting overzealous while twisting a bolt back into the motherboard, you can end up shearing the head off. Now, that's not going to break the entire system per se, but it's definitely not something that is a desirable action to take. So, that being said, those are the quick things to go ahead and avoid while working on the Xbox 360. Alright.